Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another Wake It Up with Janney Momentum Thursday. I'm super excited to be here with you all, regardless of what platform that you are listening or tuning in on. And this morning's topic is going to be the freedom of being vulnerable. There is so much freedom in vulnerability. And sometimes that word can be like, ooh, I don't want to be vulnerable. But today I'm going to let you know why there is freedom in being vulnerable, okay? To be completely honest with you, I used to be the person that needed to be validated by others. Not everyone, but I just needed validation from a handful of people. And it wasn't until I started my journey of consistency that I discovered self love and the freedom of vulnerability, okay? Um, you can raise your hand if you ever needed validation from someone else, whether it's a parent, whether it's a friend or a significant other, or just before you start to do something a little scary. It's like, okay, if they support me in this, then I'm good. But half the time when you're going after a new mission that was given specifically to you, those around you may not see it, okay? And I'm going to give you the definition of vulnerability. It is of a person in need of special care, support, protection because of age, disability, or risk of abuse or neglect. So, half of the time when we are too afraid to be vulnerable is because we put up these boundaries. It's because we put up these guards. It's because we put together these mechanisms to keep us safe. But half of the time when we're afraid of being vulnerable, we're afraid of tapping into our new potential or tapping into a part of us that has never been free. So when you're changing or learning something or even building, it's okay to be vulnerable with God and yourself. Use your discernment when you're being vulnerable with other people, but just know that and create your safe space. My definition of self love is loving myself the way that God loves me. That means finding the beauty when I'm weak, loving myself through the moments of weakness, moments of failure, and when I hurt myself because I'm afraid of being vulnerable. Sometimes we get embarrassed because of a bad part, or we get embarrassed because of failure. In order to succeed, we have to keep failure and success together because we can't separate failure out of the process. We only know the joy of success because we know how it once felt. We knew how it felt when we did fail. I was taught by Jim Ron, like, a bad miss is not a good miss, because you don't learn from that mistake. But a good miss is great because you're able to learn, you're able to maneuver, you're able to shift what you once did to bring upon a new thing. So don't be afraid of missing. Don't be afraid of failure because they work hand in hand together. And when you're truly being vulnerable with yourself, it's a part of the process. Okay? And like I said, it wasn't until I declared my own weakness and committed to change that I felt whole. I personally knew I had a long journey ahead of me, but I knew that the end result was way more important. My mindset had to shift, and it shifted so much since the beginning of my journey back in the beginning of 2019. So don't allow where you are currently to limit you from reaching your fullest potential or to limit you from reaching your purpose. Even if the pieces are broken, guess what, y'all? I still have some broken pieces, but you can still be used when you're broken. You can get some silly putty. You can get some, what is it they call today? Slime, whatever it is that you need to get. And you can put it together and you can create a new foundation that fits you. During this process, I learned to stop wearing a facade. Do you know what a facade is? It's an outward appearance that is maintained to conceal a less pleasurable or credible reality. And let's be honest, a lot of us are hiding from where we currently are. Do I have any super women that are listening? Or even super men? I used to try to be superwoman. And guess what? I ran myself ragged. I ran myself ragged. I know for a fact I never want to get back to that place. I used the pieces that I put together to help create new boundaries. I knew if I worked so hard to become better, if I worked so hard to become whole, and I never wanted to get back to that point where I was so broken that I didn't know where to start with the silly putty. I didn't know where to begin. And if you are in that place, that's okay because it starts with being vulnerable and realistic about where you currently are. And guess what? You can use those things that you put together to start creating your new boundaries. If you ever struggle with setting boundaries, I know I did. I know I struggled a lot with setting boundaries. Some people didn't like it when I created those new boundaries. But guess what? It wasn't until this year that I actually understood what rest meant and I gave myself the freedom to rest. So I said, you know what? I will never go back to that broken space again. I'm expecting great things. I'm ready to show up. I'm ready to make a deeper impact and I'm ready to work. I can honestly say that this newfound freedom has been way more amazing than all of my days being ragged, all of my days being ran out, all of my days trying to show up for everybody else because I wasn't living a life of purpose. And so many times when we are that person that's showing up for everybody, we don't understand that we're enabling them. We're enabling other people because they are capable of doing it. Now, when people ask me something, I say, how would you like me to help you in this manner? I don't just take on the whole project. Because I've also been in a space when I've taken on the whole project and I've completed my portion. And when it's time to execute, nothing is done. So when you're on this journey of being vulnerable, being, like I said, be mindful of your safe space, but also be mindful of your time because we're no longer putting on facades. We're no longer putting on this thing that we got it all together. We're getting whole with our silly putty, our prayers, our affirmation, and our self-care, and that's how we're moving forward. I gave myself a 2-day break about 3 weeks ago, and I went back to the grind. And the biggest things that I'm currently working on is myself and my mindset. Those are the two things that aren't tangible. When I had to relearn how to walk, it was my mindset that kept me pushing. My mindset and my physical therapist. Yes, it hurt. When I had my aneurysm, it was my mindset that said, Janet, you cannot give up on this today. When I went through those cancer scares this year, it was my mindset, my prayers, and my circle who kept me motivated. And when you're being vulnerable, it's okay to share those specific moments. I had certain people tell me they wouldn't ask me how I was doing because they didn't like to see me or think about me in that state of mind. But I also had one individual tell me, Janet, I'm so sorry for not being as present for you as I should have been because I didn't want to think about you in that way. But that's a part of being vulnerable. And I appreciated that so much because wherever I am, wherever I am in my state, that's who I am. And of course, some people aren't going to find out until after because I'm very mindful of sharing certain details. But I was expecting great things. And as you wake up this morning and as you get dressed, command your day. As you reflect after you get dressed, think about what values you want to show today. What attitude do you want to share with the world today? Do you want to share an attitude of victory? Or do you want to share an attitude of being worn out because you're trying to be someone else's superwoman or superman? What small steps can you take today to create gigantic rewards in your future? Set your goals. Today is your day, and let's go get it. Okay. I believe in you. I'm rooting for you. Thanks for tuning in to another Wake It Up with Janney Momentum Thursday. There's so much freedom in being vulnerable. Go get the rest of your week and prepare for a great week next week. I love y'all, and I'll see you next Thursday. Oh, and if you haven't got your tickets for the re up experience, I would definitely go ahead and do that. But I'm going to drop a flash sale tomorrow for our general admission. So if you haven't got that, stay tuned for tomorrow. Be vulnerable, get real, stop trying to be superwoman and superman because what is for you won't pass you. And I'm rooting for y'all. Have a great day. I love y'all.